Hello, everybody. Gary Baumgarten back with you, known in some circles as Reporter Gary. And I want to discuss with you an issue that is a hot topic right now, although I'm going to bring this to us anecdotally. And in all likelihood, this will not be considered such a hot issue. But the overall topic is, so bear with me for just a second. I want to talk to you about responsible journalism. My profession has never been under any greater scrutiny than it is today. And there are a lot of allegations flying about who's controlling the news media and whether there are nefarious reasons behind certain stories or whatnot. But I'm not going to go there. I want to talk to you about something that happened this past overnight. Very minor in comparison to those much broader and emotive issues. This is less emotive, but I think it kind of speaks to a generational change in the attitude of news organizations, the approach to certain types of stories. And really, it's a pretty benign issue, the issue that occurred overnight, but still, as a longtime journalist who always believed, and I still do, so I don't know why I use the past tense, but I've always have believed in getting the facts as best I can and present them accurately. And if you go down to the basics, you break it down to the basics of journalism, we're talking about who, what, where, when, and why. Who? Who is the individual you are talking about or you are interviewing, right? So last night there was a tornado that touched down in Harris County, Texas. And our affiliate went out there and interviewed a police sergeant with the Harris County Sheriff's Department. And when they fed the story back, they referred to him as Sergeant Castro. Well, to the uninitiated, perhaps this doesn't ring any interesting bells, but to us in the newsroom it did, because, of course, when you're interviewing a representative of a police department, a public official, and it's one thing if you're interviewing a witness who doesn't want to be named, but you're talking to a police officer in uniform with his surname on his uniform, Sergeant Stripes. So we know he is Sergeant Custer. If I use Castro, did I say Castro? I apologize if I did. It's Sergeant Custer. That much we know. But the story did not indicate his first name. Okay, an oversight. So, what do? Quite generally, in a situation like that, we want to know the individual's first name. So, I picked up the phone and I called the Harris County Sheriff's Department. And I talked to a dispatcher, and she was very nice on the phone, very polite, and she said, I'll see what I can find for you. And she put me on hold for about 3 or 4 minutes and came back. It sounded kind of apologetic. And she said, I'm sorry, sir, but I have been told that we are not allowed to give out first names. Well, I've been a journalist for 50 years. I have never had this kind of an issue raised, ever. It's often times that an affiliate in the dead of the night will feed raw tape to us and fail to tell us who the speaker is. And so I'll call the police department, fire department, whoever is involved, and I'll say, hi, I'm Gary Baumgarten from Fox News Radio in New York City. You had an officer address the news media at the scene of the explosion, the murder, the shooting, the barricaded gunman, and he wasn't identified. Could you tell me his name? And they're always helpful. I've never run into a problem, a situation where the dispatcher says, I'm told we can't tell you. But I figured I could figure out a way around this. If he is out there speaking on behalf of the Harris County Sheriff's Department, surely he's been interviewed before. So let me Google his name and see if his first name pops up. And sure enough, it did in previous stories. And guess what? every one of the stories said Sergeant Custer. Did not give his first name. So now I'm just kind of perplexed about what's going on here. Why would that be? Certainly the local media knows the guy's first name if they're interviewing him. So I pulled a story that was written by a reporter. He asked that I not tell you his name or his affiliation. It doesn't really matter. And I reached out to him. I contacted him on Facebook Messenger. And he almost immediately responded to me. He was very nice. And I said, can you explain to me why nobody's giving out this guy's first name, even in the stories prior to today and today? And he says, well, we have a policy of not giving the first names of police officers because they're targets of, I don't remember the exact word he used, but we don't want to give ammunition to the weirdos who don't like the cops, so we don't give their first names. My jaw dropped. I can almost understand the Harris County Sheriff's Department not wanting to give out the guy's first name. Maybe that's their policy. I don't understand it, but I mean, I can see where they might do that. But the news media playing along with that and agreeing not to use the guy's first name. He's a public official. What happens when he testifies in court? Are they not going to mention his first name? Is he not going to mention his first name when he's sworn in and told to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So I actually expressed to the guy, wow, in my half century of reporting, I've never seen this before. And it got me to thinking about this in a little bit more of a global sense. And I'm bringing this to you because I really want to know, since, geez, everybody is a news media critic these days, what you all think about this. I say you all because I just was on the phone with Texas. But really, I'd like to know what people think about this. And I say this and I invite your comments, knowing that probably there are going to be comments that I disagree with. But that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I really want to get a sense of how people feel about this. Remember Christchurch? The killings at the mosques in Christchurch? The government never released the name of the person. When it leaked out, most news media agreed to go along with that. Same thing with the mass shooter in the Odessa Midland area. Now, sometimes when there are mass shootings, the person's name is published. Sometimes it's not. In the past, there would be no question. No question at all. If somebody commits a heinous act, we use their name. But lately I've noticed that news organizations, and some do and some don't, it's on an individual basis, or a case-by-case basis actually, because in some cases the news organization does publish the name of the individual. In some cases it does not. Now, just for the record, so you know where I stand, if I'm in charge of a news organization, I'm going to say, let's find out, it's a matter of public record, and let's report his name. The public loses trust in the news media if we do not. Do you want the people who you trust to report on your public officials to be in cahoots with that agency and withhold public information? Now, of course, you never want to put somebody in danger. One of the things we all should strive for in this business is to do no harm or minimize the harm. So, of course, if you show a picture of an undercover officer and that causes that undercover officer's life to be endangered, you're not allowed to do that, or you're not supposed to do that. and most news organizations would not. And if publishing an officer's name might put him in harm's way, of course we wouldn't. But in this case of the sergeant, he was right there on television, on camera. Everybody could see his face. Certainly his neighbors, his friends, his colleagues, his relatives all know who he is. What's the harm in giving us his name? If there's a problem with that, put somebody else up front to talk to the reporters, not this sergeant. It doesn't make sense. And in the case of the mass shooters, in my opinion, they're either dead or incarcerated and awaiting trial. Now, why do I say that? Because the counter argument that I have heard, and we do have discussions in newsrooms all across this nation about this, is that, well, if you give the name of the mass shooter, it could be that somebody else who wants to be a mass shooter might do so because he wants the notoriety. So it's our responsibility not to report the name of this mass shooter in the hopes that it may dissuade another potential mass shooter from copycatting that crime. That's the argument. Now, I don't know, by the way, whether you could definitively say that by publishing the name of a mass killer, that it would cause somebody else, it would trigger somebody else to commit the crime. And I also do not know if we could definitively say that by withholding his name, it would dissuade somebody else from committing the crime. But I can tell you that that's the thought process that goes through the minds of the news executives before they make a decision on whether or not to release the name. So, what do you think? Was Harris County right in not releasing the first name of the sergeant who they presented to the public in front of television cameras? Are the reporters in that environment right for being complicit with the police and not releasing the first names of officers whom they quote? Are news organizations right for withholding the names of mass killers, or are they wrong? I don't know what you think, and I won't know until you tell me. So please comment below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Yes, I always shill at the end of these already. This is only my third vlog, and I'm already doing it. Hit that alarm button so when I post the next one, you'll be notified. If you like this little chat we're having, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, fine, give me a thumbs down. Looking forward to your comments and engaging with you there. Looking forward to our next little time together. And until then, peace out.